I'm glad to host, I almost called you Muthei. Muthei is your name? No.
Muthei.
Muthei Muni, right here on Bloom Radio. She's shared a bit of, her growing up and everything, and now we want to get to the gist of the story, and let's begin with the sad one. Is it sad? It ended up well, right?
Yes, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. So tell us about you losing a loved one.
So this story is a story of when I lost somebody incredibly close to me. And I normally see this story as a story of overcoming rather than a story of being defeated.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm open and honest about it is so that it can be a source of hope for somebody else who is in such a position or worse, so that they can know that there's a future after a loss, or there's a future after something devastating happening in their lives. And so this story is a story of when I lost my former boyfriend in a car crash.
Yes.
That was in the year 2021, August. And so this happened in a very fast, quick thing that was not expected. There were a lot of unknowns around what the death was about, like what happened, nobody knows till today. And so the way the whole death happened was very questionable. And so that brought up a lot of issues for me in my grieving. But before we get to that point, I'll just give you a brief description of what happened.
Yeah.
So it was on a Sunday evening. That is when a former co-worker of his called me late at night.
Yeah.
And he was asking for contact information of his family. And so I was wondering, why are you calling me late at night to ask me for somebody's contact information? And so I just gave him the contact information, but something in me was questioning, why are you calling me late at night?
Yeah.
And so that is when I tried to call both his phones, and all of them were off. And so when I sat down and I really questioned, and
what time was it?
About 11 p.m.
That's pretty late.
And it's not normal for somebody's phones to be all off. Maybe one to be off, but not both. So that's when I sat down and I actually came into myself, and I realized I am feeling that he's absent. And people who have lost somebody know the feeling. You feel that that person is no longer there.
Yeah.
And you can't explain how you feel. So that is when I frantically called my sisters up and I told them, I am feeling this type of way. But they told me, no, you're exaggerating. Don't worry, tomorrow you will find a way to reach him.
Yeah.
So I sat with that feeling, and that is when I started to ask God. And I was very hysterical, crying, because I never lost somebody that close. I used to hear of people who lost, so and so, and I would even ask them, how did you survive? I would wonder internally. I didn't think I would be those people, not to call them those people, but I didn't think my life would have gone in that direction. And so I was asking God a lot of questions, like, God, how am I going to do this? I have never gone through such pain. And I was feeling betrayed also by God, because I felt he was my friend. And so for me to go through such a thing at that time, I felt it was a betrayal on his part.
Which year was this?
2021.
Okay.
The same year that I had found my love in God and we were friends. It's the same year. So so that is when I started asking him questions, and I was crying so hard I couldn't even breathe. And when I was crying, this is where my grief story has a supernatural twist to it. Because I saw God tangibly. When I was crying in my room and nobody knew what was going on, I felt a white light hit me. And immediately I felt the peace of God. And I slept immediately. Immediately, I moved from crying hysterically to sleeping. And so I woke up in the morning, and still I was feeling there was a loss, but I couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
And so what I planned to do was to the part I didn't mention is he was out of town for official business, and so the whereabouts of where he was were only known by the company that had employed him.
Okay.
So his friends, a couple of his friends and me, we decided to just go to that company and to ask for questions, because to ask for answers, because nobody was saying anything.
Okay.
So
who contacted you to ask you for her family? Was he or she asked to get you the contacts to them, and were not explained to what has happened, or what?
They knew that he had gone.
Okay.
But they didn't want to give that information.
Okay.
They wanted the family to know first, and then they would tell the public.
Okay.
And so when we went to the headquarters, that is when now my sister came with her friend to tell me the news. And you can imagine, I was screaming and I was shouting because I could not imagine how this person that I love so much is gone, and gone for good. And what people don't know about grief, it's like your life ends. It is, reality ends completely. It's like today I have a reality, tomorrow I have a completely new reality. So that is when my life changed forever. I have never been the same from that day that I learned.
Yeah.
And so the story continues with me going home, dealing with the loss, having my family near me. My family was very instrumental in that time because they were there to hold on to me and to answer my questions.
Okay.
Because when you lose somebody, you have so many questions. You wonder, where have they gone? That's a very important question. You wonder, how will I deal with this loss? Is there hope for me? So I would ask them all those questions, and they had their own answers. Yes, because only God knows the answers. But their idea of the answer gave me some peace.
Yeah.
And so I kept on moving in the grieving journey. We went on, we buried him. We came back, and coming back was even worse than the burial, because you're coming back to life. You have to go back to work. You have to talk to clients. You have to carry out projects.
Yeah.
At that time, it needed me to really sober up, even though I was going through a lot of grief.
Yeah.
And so I carried that pain, even though I was dealing with it as much as I could.
Yeah.
I had distanced myself from God, because to me it was, God, you are my friend.
Yeah.
But now I've lost this person I love.
Yeah.
And where are the answers? So it was now a time when I was reconnecting with God.
Yeah.
I was asking him the tough questions, and he was there to hold me down. And a verse that he kept bringing into my mind was Isaiah chapter 43 verse 2. I believe it reads, when you go through the deep waters, I will be with you. They will not sweep over you.
Yeah.
So I knew that even if I was going through this grief, they would not sweep over me.
Yeah.
I didn't know how they wouldn't sweep over me, but I just trusted that God would show up for me.
Yeah.
And so I continued dealing with it. I had people praying for me, praying with me, and the prayer would help a bit. The burden would come off a bit with prayer. And now it came a time where I was trying everything. I was going to meet this person who is a grief expert, this psychologist, this pastor, this somebody, but nothing was working. I still had that pain. And no explanations to the questions.
Yeah.
Because the whole death was very complicated. There were no answers as to where he was going at night. All that is never known until this moment. So I had to find a way to come to peace with that information.
And even the family was not told?
Nobody knows.
Where?
So it came a time where nothing was working, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And that is now where I saw God heavily. When I tell somebody of my grieving story or my testimony, I speak of this point because this is where God showed up for me. And he really helped me. So somebody texted me and told me that God was ready to heal me, and he wanted me to release everything to him. And
what does that mean?
Exactly.
Hold on to that thought. I want you to hold on to that thought. Let's get into the next hour. When we come back, we talk about the solution, what it means to letting go of everything to the Lord.